Hi everyone, my name is Nigel and I'm the author of Think Right, and today we're going to be studying how to write a book review. This is chapter 19, and somebody was asking me, actually, how do you write a book review? I felt like telling them, read chapter 19. The actual answer is that it depends. For whom are you writing this book review? That's actually the first question. Not how to write the book review, but for who are you writing it? Depending on the seminary or the teacher's expectations, you may have different expectations for book review. So there's no one standard for writing a book review. There are many ways of writing a book review depending on who's asking. So in this book, I've listed 4 different types of book reviews. I've called them level 1, level 2, level 3 and level 4. Many teachers themselves are not clear when they ask a student to write a book review. So what I've done is I've given these 4 different levels for both teachers and students to be clear about what is being expected. And going straight in, we have level 1. This is level 1 in page 135, level 1. And the level 1 book review is simply a book report. This kind of book review or book report is written for someone who for a teacher who just wants to check whether you have read the book or not. So sometimes you may have a reading assignment and say, read this book for your reading and write a book review. They might be meaning simply a book report. And by book report, what I mean is simply writing the summary of the book, what is the book saying, and very minimal comments about whether it's good or bad. That's not really the point of this book report. It's not supposed to be you're not supposed to be writing too much about whether this is a good book, a bad book, you liked it or you didn't like it. We simply want to know whether you have read this book, what are the key ideas about this book. The level 1 book report is usually about 1 or 2 pages. The goal of this review is to report, to basically identify the book's key points. And sometimes the teacher may ask for some comment about the book, but typically it's simply, tell me something about this book. That's it. And that's what I call the level 1 book review or the level 1 book report. The second type of book review is when the teacher asks you to write a book reflection. This is what I call level 2. It's the book reflection. Now, this is very common in spiritual formation classes, where a teacher will give you a spiritual book, a book not academic, but focusing on prayer life or Bible reading or fasting, and ask you to write a book review of that book. Now, the aim of that teacher is not for you to write a critical analysis of that book, but to write a reflective review to see how that book is impacting your life, to see what you like about it and how that shapes your thinking and also your spiritual devotion towards God. So in this kind of book reflection, it could be 2 pages, it could be 4 pages, but the teacher is not asking simply, have you read the book? But the teacher is asking, how were you impacted by the book? So this is also very common in seminaries, where a teacher will say, write a book review, but actually they mean write a book reflection. How did you feel while reading that book? What did you think about? How did it impact your spiritual life? So that's level 2, which is reflection. It's more about how the book impacts you. Level 1 was just a book report. This is what the book is saying. Level 2 is, this is how the book impacted me. This is how the book is making me think about God and spirituality. Level 2. The level 3 book review is what I call an analytical book review. So this is most common in MTH level work, where you're a student and you're being asked to write a book review. Now here, if it's not a level 1, just a book report, if it's not a spiritual reflection, then more often than not, the teacher is asking you to write an analytical review of that book. And this could go from 2 to 4 pages long, but the focus is not simply describe what the book is saying, but you have to analyze it and you may have to evaluate it. And there may be an aspect where you must apply it in research or in your context. So this type of book review, which is more that there is more to be expected, let me just spend a little more time talking about what those expectations could be. So let's assume you're at the MTH level and you're being asked by a teacher to write an analytical book review. So the first thing in that book review will be a summary of the key points of the book. So the book may be 8 chapters long, and you will identify maybe the structure of the book and the main points of the book. You don't have to give full details of everything, but it's a good summary of the book. That will be the first part of that book review. The second part of the book review will have analytical comments, where you will make comments about the book that are observation worthy. So that means something in this book is interesting, something in this book is worthy of attention. It goes beyond simply identifying the main points of the book, but highlighting certain key ideas that are quite interesting in relation to this book. They may be unique ideas, they may be something different from what other people have written, and it may be the way the author has constructed their ideas. And it's simply making observations of certain key ways that the author is presenting their work. So not to, again, promote my work, but let's say somebody was to do a book review of my book called What is Religion? So an analysis of that book, an analytical comment could be the author primarily uses the historical methodology to make his case. You see, so that's not a positive or a negative. To define what is religion, the author, Nigel Ajay Kumar, is using the historical methodology to discuss or to present his case. That's an observation. Like that, you will not only summarize the book, but also make analytical observations. That's in this level 3 analytical book review. The third thing that you may be expected to have is evaluation, where you will have to evaluate the book in relation to 2 aspects. Now in Think Right, I've talked a lot more about evaluation, but here let me just identify how do you evaluate? So there are 2 ways to evaluate. The first is internal evaluation, which means I, as the author, have a goal. I have set out to establish a goal. Have I succeeded in that goal? So let's say you're reading a book by, let's say, Nigel Ajay Kumar. He has written a book. So he has tried to define what is religion. Has he succeeded in defining what is religion? Or the contrast is, he said he was going to define what is religion, but instead he started talking about the earth or life or environment or gender or whatever. He got distracted from the main question of his own book. So that's an internal evaluation where you critique an author on the basis of their own work. So that's one evaluation that you could be expected to make in an analytical book review. The other evaluation is the evaluation with external criteria, which means what is this book in relation to other books and other articles. So there are other studies being written on this topic. How does this author measure up in relation to others? Now this is quite advanced, and some MTH teachers may not expect this level of analysis or evaluation in your work, but sometimes they might, especially for high-level book reviews. They may say, evaluate your work in relation to its own criteria as well as other external criteria. So let's say you are reading my work, What is Religion? Now you might compare that work with other works on what is religion. So let's say there's another work by Paul Tillich called What is Religion? So then you compare Paul Tillich's work with Nigel Ajay Kumar's, and then you can say Paul Tillich makes a good case about what is religion, but Nigel Ajay Kumar falls short. He does not. His work is not of that standard. That's what I mean by evaluating on the basis of another criteria, using one standard to evaluate another. So evaluation, you may be expected to evaluate that book. Okay, so that's the third part in analytical book reviews. The fourth aspect, the fourth part of an analytical book review could be application. You could be asked to make applications in academia for research or make applications for your context. So you begin with a summary, you make analytical comments, you evaluate on basis of internal and external criteria, and then you have a brief evaluation or final concluding comments. So that's this strong book review, which is common at the MTH level. Usually MDiv students are not expected to do that much analysis, but they may have some elements of this in a simpler level in the MDiv or BTH level, where a teacher might say, have some level of analysis or have some level of evaluation. So that just shows what is an analytical book review. So far we have seen 3 levels of book reviews. We have seen the book report, which is a simple statement of what the book is about. We've seen the book reflection, which is a reflection on how the book impacted me or what I find spiritually beneficial in this book. And the third type is the analytical book review, which is common in academic circles, which has these points. It has the summary, it has analytical comments, it has evaluation, and it has application. The fourth level of the book review is what you find in academic journals. It's over here, the level 4. We are in page 137. Now, like I said, that a book review depends on for whom you're writing. Even an academic journal review, which you write for a journal, will depend for which journal you are writing. So some journals will expect a certain style of writing a review. Another journal might expect another type. So if, let's say, you're invited to write a book review for a journal, check out the journal reviews of check out the previous reviews. See how the previous reviews are done, and that can become a template for how you should write. So check what audience. So over here, what I say is you need to be clear about what the audience is when you're writing for a journal. So that's the first thing. If it's a specialized journal about theology, then make specialized theological comments. If it's a specialized journal about missions, then write comments about missions. So like that, be mindful of the audience of the journal. The second thing that you have to do in writing a journal review is to see how much time they spend in summary and how much time they spend in analysis. Oftentimes, journal articles may prioritize summaries. They just want a quick summary, something like a report of what the book is about with minimal analytical and evaluation comments. So maybe that's the style that the journal is expecting of you as well. So just know what the expectations are. Similarly, be careful to see whether there are any evaluation comments or not. Whether you're supposed to evaluate in the sense of, let's say, negatively evaluate. Oftentimes you might find positive evaluation. Yes, this book is useful. This book is useful for college level students, or this book is useful as an introductory work. This book is useful for engaging with this topic at multiple levels. You'll see positive comments, but oftentimes you won't find this book is rubbish. that you won't usually find in an academic journal. So see how much evaluation you're expected to do. And then also check what is your word limit. How many words are you supposed to do, right? How many words are you supposed to write? Oftentimes a journal article will be not more than 1 or 2 pages long. So you have to keep within that word limit. So be careful about that as well. The reason why I'm telling you all this is that while we may say this is how to write a book review, it's very important to know for whom you are writing and what the expectations are. So your teacher might, when they say write a book review, may only be saying write a book report. Or they might be saying write a reflection, like a spiritual reflection, a reflection paper. Or they may want a proper analytical study with evaluation. That's level 3. Or they might expect a short, crisp book report along with some analytical and critical comments, something like a journal article. That would be level 4. So when you are writing a book review, make sure you know who the audience is and what the expectations are. And that's what I say in this book. What I'm trying to say is I'm not trying to give you a template of how to write a book review, but to have a sense that there are many kinds of expectations. Just be clear about what your expectation is, what your teacher's expectation is from you, and then follow the guidelines for those expectations as marked in this book or any other book that you might find. Okay, so I hope you found this useful, and see you in the next video.